So today we're going to be taking a look at an updated World War III scenario. Now about a month ago I made my original prediction for World War III, but some things have changed since then, so it's time to update it and kind of factor in some new things. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Limited time 25,000 subscriber merch is only going to be out for about 2 more weeks. I'm going to be ending it on February 12th. So if you want to pick something up, I would recommend doing it now, because if you don't get something, then it's going to be gone forever and you'll never be able to get it again. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump right into this video. So as we all know, tensions between Russia and Ukraine is still up there pretty high. It's higher than I was when I last made my video. And now the media is covering it, so we know some more information, and a lot more people know about it. About a month ago, no one was really invested in it, but now everyone is, so now I can actually talk about it. As it stands right now, Ukraine is fine. Russia doesn't say they're going to do anything. Personally, I don't think they are going to do anything, but if they do, then we're going to have ourselves an interesting scenario. If Russia does do something, then the most likely course that the World War III would take was just them getting sanctioned. I don't actually think that any of the NATO members or the US would go to war with Russia over Ukraine, and that's pretty unfortunate for every warmonger out there. But yeah, let's go ahead and say it does advance. We have Russia declaring war on Ukraine, and the USA actually does something about it. So with this, we have two major world powers going to war over Ukraine, and I don't know if all of NATO will get involved. Probably not, because NATO is a defensive alliance aimed towards protecting each other, and Ukraine isn't in NATO, therefore they won't be protected by all the other members. But going back over to Europe here, we have some interesting allies of Ukraine. First off, we have the UK joining in. Now the UK and the USA are both exporting weapons over to Ukraine. Germany's been causing some problems with that, but that's not the main focus. So if it does go to war and the US joins, I can guarantee that the UK would as well. We would also most likely see the Baltic states joining in, and that's because the Baltic states are also exporting weapons to Ukraine. So with this, we do have an interesting map here, and honestly, if these guys are going to get involved, I also think that Turkey would get involved, and that's because the president of Turkey has also criticized Russia on the whole Ukrainian matter. Now, of course, Russia would also have the ally of Belarus in this war, because they've already positioned troops on the southern Belarusian border with Ukraine. So with that, you know, it's kind of given, plus Belarus is Russia's biggest ally. So this is what our map looks like so far, and this is probably like right away, maybe not right away, but like a few days after Russia declares war. And Ukraine would probably look like this at this point, with all these other countries joining in. They would be falling back. But Russia does currently only have 100,000 known troops on the border, which isn't necessarily enough to take over the entire country, but it is enough to get like about here, which is pretty damaging. But let's go ahead and run over to China here. Now, China has stated that it is backing Russia's side on the whole Ukrainian matter, because the West is doing weird things or something like that. I don't remember what the article said. This wasn't an official like I'll back you up in war, but this was more of like, if you go to war, then I might sell you some weapons and stuff like that. But they could definitely get involved. I don't see why they would get involved other than Taiwan, but yeah, China is definitely there. So just a recap, China said that it backs Russia's side on the standoff, doesn't necessarily back the side in war, but seeing as I said that, they might, I don't know. You know, it's China. You never know with China. But looking over at Kazakhstan, this is also another interesting place we can look at, because we recently saw the I guess failed coup or whatever it was, the protest riots stuff, you know, normal stuff nowadays. Now Russia helped them overthrow this coup, but I've heard that people in Kazakhstan aren't really pro-Russian, so it would be interesting to see if Kazakhstan joins the side of Russia, stays neutral, or, well, I don't think they would join the blue team, but it'd be interesting to see what they do. Anyway, at this point in the war, this is what we're looking like. We have Ukraine being folded over, and we're also seeing reinforcements coming back. So Ukraine is most likely to lose Kiev and then eventually fall. And then up north, we also see Russia pushing into the Baltics. Now, the whole Baltics joining thing probably wouldn't actually happen, because the Baltics aren't really strong enough to hold off Russia. Although the US is considering sending troops over to Europe right now. They have like 8,500 troops ready to be sent over. And it's all to the call of the administration. So if they choose to send troops over, they'll go to the Baltics and possibly Ukraine. And maybe Romania and Bulgaria. But assuming that in this scenario that the Baltic states did declare war on Russia, we're also assuming that the U.S. troops are already there, and there's a lot more of them than just 8,500. So now looking at this, who else would get involved? Well, obviously Canada and France would most likely get involved. But when considering other European countries, they're kind of held at gunpoint. So Germany loves Russian gas. We all know that because it's Germany. Who doesn't love... okay, that sounded really bad. But Europe relies on Russian gas, and Russia would cut off gas to Europe, obviously, in this situation because they're at war. Why would you supply your enemy? So maybe a lot of Europe would just stray away from joining the war, and it would just be left to the Western powers in Turkey, as well as the Baltics, of course. But if you don't have gas in Russia, there's always other places to get gas, so I'm sure Saudi Arabia would help out. Qatar has already stated that they would most likely help out. And you know, Russia isn't the only supplier that you could ever get. I'm pretty sure the US has also said they would help out with gas, so I guess that's gas prices going up again. Anyway, back to Europe here. Yeah, I'm not sure who would actually really want to join this. Probably Poland, because, they don't like Belarus. They've had some standoffs on their border recently. So with that, we'd probably see a push into Belarus, as well as troops in Lithuania being pushed back. On the contrary, though, we probably would see Russian troops pushing into Estonia now, and we'd most likely see the capture of Kiev. So this war would have a very interesting front. It would be a pretty massive front if all of NATO got involved, so it would go all the way from Estonia down until Ukraine, and then maybe possibly even Romania. And Finland is an ally of NATO. They aren't in NATO, but they are an ally of NATO. And, Finland could get involved and start another winter war. So we're looking at a front line for Russia about this big. And, of course, Georgia would probably get involved, as well as Azerbaijan. So that would be another big front line. And looking at this, statistically, Russia would be pretty screwed because NATO is strong. I think that we all know that NATO is probably stronger than Russia. And some propaganda is mixed in there based on your opinion of what I just said. But statistically, NATO is stronger than Russia. Also, this front line, not looking good for either side, but especially Russia, because these are multiple countries. This is just one country. And that might not even be your only front, because over here we have Japan. And Japan and Russia don't really like each other. So maybe that would be another front you'd have to worry about. As well as America coming in from Siberia. Would they do this? No, probably not, because that would be suicide. But, it's still worth a shot. And we're looking at a front line for Russia that could look like this. If they go to war with Ukraine, they might deal with this. I'm pretty sure they already know this. Like, they'd be pretty screwed. But that's not really part of my prediction. I'm just predicting if it does happen and the U.S. gets involved, if Russia invades Ukraine in real life, sanctions, that's all they're probably going to get. If the U.S. gets involved, we're looking at this. Back to Europe. Who else would join in this war? Well, probably Georgia and Azerbaijan, as I said. Another thing to happen. We could possibly see Iran joining in. Now, I'm going to do the possibility countries the same as I did in the other video. So, possible countries would be like a lighter shade of that color, if that makes sense. So, Iran, possibly, maybe not. I don't know. Same with China here. Possibly, they might get involved. And just looking at East Asia here, this is what it would look like if, if Japan gets involved. All these guys are getting involved too. I wouldn't be too surprised if India joined in, and of course that would lead to Pakistan. But at a true extent in a war, this is probably as far as everyone would go. Maybe Saudi Arabia. They don't like Iran, and they also are friends with the USA. They're also friends with Russia, but they don't like Iran, so maybe that would be their main reason. Once again, this is probably the fullest extent. Germany maybe get involved. I don't really like that gas though. And then Romania, Bulgaria, probably, maybe Norway, yes, maybe Spain, Italy. I don't know. It just depends on what the country's leaders want to do. So yeah, this is my updated World War III prediction. Actually, no, if China gets involved, Australia is already going to get involved because of defensive pacts. Now, you might be asking yourself, what about NATO being activated? Now, NATO is only activated if a member of the alliance is declared war on, not if that member joins the side of an ongoing war. So let's just give an example here. If Poland declared war on Russia, and Russia moved troops into Poland, that wouldn't activate NATO because Poland is the aggressor. But let's go ahead and move on over and finish up the scenario. I'm actually going to be doing like a war scenario, so that's different for my prediction. And all of these states will not be involved, so that might be confusing, but just know that only the darker color is involved. Back down to Ukraine, we have the country being folded over, and they eventually surrender. Up north, we have a push into Estonia and Latvia as Lithuania starts to retreat. Poland makes a small push into Kaliningrad, as well as expanding their front in Belarus. Down south, we see Georgia, Azerbaijan, and Turkey push up into southern Russia, although there are problems because this is a pretty rocky area. And assuming that the USA, France, and Britain have already kind of made their troops go over to Poland, we can probably see a pushback of Ukraine. Kaliningrad would probably eventually fall, and NATO would push back Russian forces in Ukraine. With this, they would also push into Belarus. Now, when it comes to war, there's probably about 4 different groups of armies here. One group of army is mainly focused on taking down southern Ukraine over here, so all these southern Ukraine, this is probably a relatively small army group. And then another army group would be up north in Ukraine, taking over this area. This is probably one of the larger ones. We'd have our own group for Belarus. This would be like a medium-sized army, and they would be focused on taking over all of Belarus. And then we would have like a Baltic flank pushing up in order to take back Estonia and Latvia. And they might be able to do this, although I don't know if it'd be successful, because Russia certainly isn't the stupidest country in the world. Although if you ever do see a World War III analysis video on my channel, you'll know that they actually are stupid. Anyway, with this Baltic flank, they do manage to cut off some Russian forces, although it's not a majority of them, and they eventually take back all of the Baltics. And from here, we have ourselves a good old-fashioned stalemate. Down south, we see a push-up from Azerbaijan, while we see forces in Georgia being pushed back. Eventually, they push into the panhandle of Georgia, as well as all of northern Georgia. And yeah, this is probably going to be a war of attrition, or just a war of stalemate. Pretty equally matched. If all the other NATO countries got involved, then they would obviously be able to push back Russia. But at this current state, no one else is going to get involved. And that would kind of lead some of these likely countries to join. So at this state, maybe China would join in, which would domino effect everyone else to joining in. And that would probably activate all of NATO, not because of the treaty, but just because of allies. And from there, you can just go watch one of my many World War III videos, because I'm kind of repetitive, but when you take large alliances and fight them, it turns into global conflicts. Who would have known? Yeah, but go watch one of those videos and you'll find out what actually happens. But to add a furthermore explanation of a World War III scenario, not necessarily based around the Ukrainian conflict, but based around other conflicts, then you can go watch my World War III video, my BRICS versus NATO video. Any of those large-scale conflict videos are pretty close to World War III. And yeah, I'm going to actually end off my prediction here. So let's go ahead and redo all this war stuff. And yeah, so this is like the max extent as to which I can see World War III playing out to. If you would even call this World War III, it's more like Russia versus the US and then everyone else is just watching. But yeah, this is my updated prediction. Obviously, it's not as brutal as my other one because once again, now that we know more information, the two sides have been talking unsuccessfully, but you know, it's still talking. And they haven't really said they want to go to war. I know the US doesn't want to go to war, and I don't think they will, which, once again, unfortunate for you warmongers out there. I know you watch my videos. I know you do. And also, Russia just, Russia couldn't take on all of NATO, so there's no point in going to war. I think that everyone knows that. I think that everyone's just trying to do like a show of power thing here and kind of scare each other, which I wouldn't be scared if I was the president of the United States. I would just be like, okay, buddy, what you gonna do? Anyway, thank you guys for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you subscribe because subscribers are cool. We're close to 30,000 subscribers, and that's a big number. And I hate odd numbers. 29,000, nice goal. 30,000, that's nice and even. So yeah, make sure you do that, or I will come to your house and talk to you about geography. Some of you would probably like that. You weirdos. AdizzPro merch. Once again, it's going away on February 12th. You want it, you buy it. I might do a discount a couple days before it ends just to make sure people can get it if they don't have it already. And if you don't have it already, what are you doing? You need to buy it. It's the best merchandise around, obviously. And yeah, once it's February 12th, going away forever, never see it again. I will never sell this design with a 25,000 will never be sold again. The design with the Earth in the AdizzPro mic is sold again, but 25,000 never sold again. I think I've made myself clear. AdizzPromerch.com if you want to pick something up. I'm actually like a crazy YouTuber about merchandise. I'm just trying to prove a point that it's going away forever. I feel like as a fan of a YouTuber who's relatively small, I would be like, I'm gonna buy your merch because I can resell it on eBay when he's famous. Okay, I'm pulling this video on too long. I'm sorry, but yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys later.